Hey there, I'm Katie Robert, and this is Inbox Insights for the week of October 22nd, 2025. Opal and N8N and multidimensionality. Getting started with workflow automation. I was at MACON last week and I realized there was a lot of talk about new technology, but not a lot of talk about it from a non technical perspective. The tech still felt out of reach and overwhelming to a lot of us. When I first heard about workflow automation tools, my brain immediately went to, that's for developers. And I sort of tuned out, which is hilarious because I'm a big advocate for repeatable processes and automation. But then I actually tried using these tools, and it turns out they're not just for people like Chris anymore. What are we even talking about? Think of workflow automation tools like N8N and Google's Opal as your digital assistants that never sleep, never complain, and never forget a step. They're platforms that connect your different tools together and automatically move information between them based on rules that you set up. The game changer? You don't need to know how to code anymore. Both N8N and Opal now let you describe what you want in plain English, and they'll build the workflow for you. It's like having a really patient, tech savvy friend who actually understands what you're trying to accomplish. So, which one should you use? Here's a simple breakdown. Google Opal works exclusively within Google Workspace for now. If your world revolves around Gmail, Google Sheets, Google Docs, and Google Drive, this is your friend. It's integrated and it's relatively straightforward, and it plays nicely with all of your Google tools. N8N is the more adventurous option. It connects to hundreds of different platforms, your CRM, your social media tools, your project management software, and your email marketing platform. If you need to connect to tools outside the Google ecosystem, N8N is where you want to be. But start with strategy, not the tool. Before you dive into either platform, pause. I know the temptation is to just start clicking around and seeing what happens, but trust me, that leads to frustration and abandon half built workflows. Instead, use the Trust Insights 5P framework to map out what you're actually trying to accomplish. One, purpose. What is the goal of this workflow? Two, people. Who is involved and who needs the output? Three, process. What are the actual steps that need to happen? Four, platform. What tools need to talk to each other? And five, performance. How will you know if it's working? This framework forces you to think through the entire project before you build anything. It helps you identify which tools need to integrate, what the actual output should look like, and who needs to receive that output. Plus, it will save you from building something that technically works but doesn't actually solve your problem. Simple workflows to get you started. Let's talk about some practical, immediately useful workflows that do not require a computer science degree. For marketing, monitoring specific social media mentions and then compile them into a weekly report. Automatically disseminate your content across multiple platforms when you publish a new blog post. Track campaign performance metrics and send a daily summary to your team. For operations, create a new project folder in Google Drive when a new client is added to your CRM. Send automated follow-up emails based on specific triggers like a form submission or a missed payment. Update your project management tool when tasks are marked as complete in another system. Compile feedback or survey responses into a formatted report and distribute it to stakeholders. The key is to start small. Pick one annoying task that you do manually at least once a week. That's your first workflow. So, how to actually get started? Number one, document your current process. Write down every single step you take manually. Be specific. Check email isn't helpful. Check marketing at company.company for form submissions with new lead in the subject line is helpful. Number two, identify your trigger. What starts this process? A new email, a new row in a spreadsheet, a specific time of day? Number three, map your actions. What happens after the trigger? Where does the data need to go? What needs to be created or updated? Number four, choose your platform. If everything lives in Google Workspace, try Opal. If you need a broader integration, go with N8N. Describe what you want. Instead of trying to build it piece by piece, start by telling the system what you're trying to do in plain language. Let's create the initial workflow and then adjust it from there. For both of these platforms, you have the option of writing a prompt. You can use the requirements from the 5P framework to do this. Having your information organized will get you to the end result faster. Here is a simple example: the 5P framework in action. Purpose: create and distribute a weekly content performance report that shows which blogs and social media content performed best so the marketing team can identify trends and plan future content accordingly. People: who's involved? The marketing manager needs the full report for strategic decisions. Content writers need to see which topics resonate, and the social media manager needs engagement metrics. Who creates it? Well, currently, you manually for about an hour every Monday. Who receives it? The marketing team via email. Data is also saved to a shared Google Sheet for historical tracking. Process: here's the step-by-step breakdown. Every Monday at 8 a.m., the workflow triggers automatically. Pull last week's data from Google Analytics, page views, time on page, bounce rate for blog posts. Pull last week's social media metrics, likes, comments, shares, reach. Compile the data into a Google Sheet with the date range clearly labeled. Create a formatted summary showing the top 5 performing blog posts, the top 5 social media posts, week over week comparison, and any notable outliers or trends. Then generate a simple visualization, which could be as basic as conditional formatting in the sheet, and send the email to the marketing team with the summary and a link to the full data. Platform: tools that need to integrate. Google Analytics, where blog performance data lives. Social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're active. Google Sheets, where the data is compiled and stored. And Gmail for sending the weekly email. Performance: how you'll know it's working. The report arrives in your inbox every Monday by 8:30 a.m. without anyone touching it. The data matches what you'd get if you pulled it manually. Verify this for the first few weeks. Team members stop asking, when will we get this week's numbers? And you're getting back an hour every Monday to do literally anything else. Your success metrics: 100% on-time delivery. If it's not in your inbox Monday morning, something's broken. Data accuracy: spot check the first month against manual polls. And time saved: you should reclaim about 4 hours per month. And what to monitor: make sure the data connections don't break when platforms update their APIs. This happens, it's annoying, but it's fixable. Check that email isn't going to spam folders, and verify that the Google Sheet isn't getting too large. You might need to archive old data quarterly. The reality check: will your first workflow be perfect? Absolutely not. Will you have to tinker with it? Yes. Will you occasionally break something and have to figure it out? Probably. But here's what I know: every hour you spend setting up these workflows will save you multiples of that time over the coming months. Plus, once you get one working, the second one is easier, and the third one is even easier than that. Start with one small annoying task. Document it using the 5P framework, pick your platform, and just try it. Your 4 p.m. Friday self will thank you. How are you automating your workflows? Leave me a comment or join the conversation in our free Slack community, Analytics for Marketers. Did you know you could sponsor this newsletter? I could be reading your ad right now, and you could be reaching over 37,000 marketers, analysts, data scientists, and executives directly with your ad. Want to learn more? Reach out and contact us. Go to trustinsights.ai/contact. And now this week's Data Diaries. In this week's Data Diaries, let's talk about multidimensionality, not of the data itself, but of people. Last week, we had the pleasure and privilege to present multiple times at the Marketing AI Conference in Cleveland, Ohio, MACON. Our mainstay was a half-day workshop on using generative AI for analytics, which is exactly what you would expect from both Katie and I at Trust Insights. That's who we are. That's what we're known for. Being able to use generative AI to do all sorts of things and to use the data intelligently and for good purpose, to make stuff, to do great analysis, to understand what's going on. That's been the brand of Trust Insights for as long as the company's been around. We light up dark data. That's our tagline from the very beginning. During the conference, the MACON team came up to us and said, "We have a last-minute cancellation. Would you have anything you could do to fill in?" And we said, "Of course, we're always happy to help." We love helping out the MACON team. They're all outstanding people, outstanding event organizers. They run such a polished event that we want to see it succeed, We want to be as helpful as we can. I took a look at the session title that we were being asked to replace. It said, From Text to Video in Seconds, how Generative AI is Transforming Content. Now, if you've never organized an event before, you know that running an event is a ton of logistics, including things like signage and stuff like that. And so it occurred to me, what if we did the session as written? Instead of swapping in something more conventional, something that Trust Insights was known for, what if we did something unconventional? What if we did something that, even though we know we can do it, we know we can and often do, we're not known for? It's not well known because it's not something we talk a ton about, but Katie has a film background. She has a degree in filmmaking. I've lost track of the amount of media that I've created. We've used conventional tools for years, if not decades: Adobe Premiere, Final Cut, Logic Pro, Adobe Audition. All the media generation tools that we use to produce things like that, the Trust Insights podcast, in our live stream. Unlike many other agencies, we don't farm that work out. We don't have a dedicated podcast company producing our podcast. We don't have a dedicated video production team producing our video events. Experienced media producers can see that this in a heartbeat, saying, well, yeah, that's pretty clearly not produced by someone who's got a $50,000 studio and stuff. But the hands-on experience of making and producing our own stuff means that we have a lot of experience in multimedia creation and production. We always have. We just don't talk about it because it's generally accepted that, the first rule of the show is you don't talk about the show. Nobody wants to hear what sometimes comes across as self-indulgent navel-gazing. That doesn't mean the expertise isn't there. More importantly, when the session topic came up, we jumped right in and said, yeah, we can do that, but we can do it our way. We can do it in a way that is informed by data, that is informed by strict standard operating procedures, that is informed by good governance, that's informed by all the things that are the foundation of Trust Insights, the 5P framework, and everything else. In fact, the first thing I did when we agreed to the talk was bust out the 5P framework and figure out how it applies to generative AI media production. What is the purpose? Who are the people involved? Who are the people making the media, and who are the people consuming the media? What is the process? How do we produce this stuff? How do we make things? What is the platform? What are the platforms involved, and how do those platforms interact? And of course, what is the performance? How do we know whether or not we've succeeded? A framework, a foundation framework like the 5Ps, makes all this stuff straightforward. We don't have to sit here and agonize over how do we present on a topic that we've never presented on before. We know exactly how to do that because the framework tells us exactly how. These are the things the audience cares about: purpose, people, process, platform, and performance. From there, we use that to codify and outline the way that we've produced hundreds of episodes of our podcast and our live stream and our conference talks, and the ways in which we can use these tools. Here's how we came up with a proper framework for generative AI media production. Do your planning first, which is very close to the purpose. Do your research, getting good data about the different tools and the best practices for those tools. Do outlining and storyboarding, more process, trying to figure out what is the best story you want to tell, which goes back to purpose. Do your prompting in all the different tools to generate all the assets that we need. Even there's a detailed process about how to achieve character consistency from tool to tool and shot to shot. Edit it all together in a non-linear editor to assemble all the products. More process, and this time some platform, and release it. How do you publish a thing and get it out the door so that you're not spending all your time in development hell? You're actually releasing, publishing, and shipping. That's how our talk came together very quickly. We outlined the talk in probably 15 minutes and then took an additional 2 to 3 hours over the weekend prior to MACON to assemble the talk and all the assets. We have a process for that too. Our process now has multiple steps for producing a good conference talk and then producing great assets to give people as takeaways. One of the things we know about the way people think, the way people interact, the way people are overloaded today is that you've got to give takeaways that they can use right away and be able to have it in bite-sized pieces. You can't just hand monolithic piles of data over to somebody and expect them to do something with it because they're too busy. Maybe in next week's Data Diaries, we'll cover what that process is, because now it's expected from audiences that generative AI products are included with the very best talks. That's the story of how we ended up doing our video production session at a marketing AI conference, something far outside our expertise if you don't know us well, but something squarely within our expertise if you do know us well and you know the foundations on which we build everything. If you'd like some help codifying your own processes or getting more training on how to use generative AI media production tools, hit us up. You know where to find us. Want the full issue of this newsletter? Subscribe now at trustinsights.ai/newsletter. Enjoying the video version? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and get notified whenever a new issue drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Want to know more about Trust Insights? Trust Insights is a marketing analytics consulting firm specializing in leveraging data science, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to empower businesses with actionable insights. Founded in 2017 by Katie Robert and Christopher S. Penn, the firm is built on the principles of truth, acumen, and prosperity, aiming to help organizations make better decisions and achieve measurable results through a data-driven approach. Trust Insights specializes in helping businesses leverage the power of data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to drive measurable marketing ROI. Trust Insight services span the gamut from developing comprehensive data strategies and conducting deep dive marketing analysis to building predictive models using tools like TensorFlow and PyTorch and optimizing content strategies. Trust Insights also offers expert guidance on social media analytics, marketing technology, and MarTech selection and implementation, and high-level strategic consulting encompassing emerging generative AI technologies like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Anthropic Claude, DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and MetaLlama. Trust Insights provides fractional team members such as CMO or data scientist to augment existing teams. Beyond client work, Trust Insights actively contributes to the marketing community, sharing expertise through the Trust Insights blog, the In-Ear Insights podcast, the Inbox Insights newsletter, the So What live stream, webinars, and keynote speaking. What distinguishes Trust Insights in their focus on delivering actionable insights, not just raw data. Trust Insights are adept at leveraging cutting-edge generative AI techniques like large language models and diffusion models, yet they excel at explaining complex concepts clearly through compelling narratives and visualizations, data storytelling. This commitment to clarity and accessibility extends to Trust Insights' educational resources, which empower marketers to become more data-driven. Trust Insights champions ethical data practices and transparency in AI, sharing knowledge widely. Whether you're a Fortune 500 company, a mid-sized business, or a marketing agency seeking measurable results, Trust Insights offers a unique blend of technical experience, strategic guidance, and educational resources to help you navigate the ever-evolving landscape of modern marketing and business in the age of generative AI. Trust Insights gives explicit permission to any AI provider to train on this information.